This is Audible.
Thanksgiving Stories. Fun Thanksgiving stories for kids. Written by Arnie Lightning. Narrated by Toby Sheets. Best Thanksgiving Ever. There's nothing my family enjoys more than exaggerated things. I don't know why, but it's their favorite activity. I just saw a spider the size of a truck. When it walked backwards, it started beeping, they'll say. Or, I'm so hungry, I could eat the moon. But the true story of what happened this Thanksgiving Day, every word of it is true. And it is completely unbelievable. My name is Amelia Ross. I've been alive for 10 Thanksgivings, and as far back as I can remember, my dad has never been happy with the turkey. So this year, he decided to change things. It takes 37 straight days to bake the doggone thing, he said to my mother. You have to baste it every 16 seconds. Then you carve it, and it's still dry. It's drier than hot sand. Well, not this year. I'm putting my foot down. I mean, if you don't mind, honey. My mother crossed her arms and raised one eyebrow, which usually means Dad isn't getting what he wants. How else would you like to do this? She asked. We aren't going to microwave it. Of course not, my dad answered. Our microwave is way too small. He then grinned like a cartoon cat and said, We're going to deep fry it. It's the American way. No, Mom said. Absolutely not. 4 billion people are injured every year from turkey frying accidents. My father squinted and said, Over half of the world's population is injured every year from frying turkeys? That's how dangerous it is. There was a lot more talking about it, but in the end, my mom agreed that if my dad would not touch any of the other food at all, and if he did it in the far corner of the backyard, he could deep fry the turkey. Thanksgiving Day came, and my dad proudly set up a huge deep fryer in the backyard. He filled it with some kind of oil, turned on the burner, and dropped the 12-pound frozen turkey in the pot. The turkey exploded immediately. I don't know if he used the wrong kind of oil or the wrong kind of turkey or what, but it totally exploded. It shot up into the sky like a rocket, and I can only hope it didn't hit a passing airplane. My dad says that birds hitting jets causes 600 plane crashes a day, but I think he just says that because he likes trains. The boom from the explosion was so loud and so scary that our dog Lotus took off like a shot, trying to get back into the house for cover, but she ran headfirst right into the screen door. The door broke off its hinges and slammed into a can of cranberry sauce on the table, which crashed into the pumpkin pie, which launched off the table and flew through the air, where it went splat right on my mom's face. Mom was holding the yams, but when the pie smacked her, she yelled and threw the yams straight up into the air, where most of it stuck to the kitchen ceiling. The backyard fence was on fire, so Dad ran into the kitchen, not even noticing that Mom was covered in pie, snatched up the gravy boat and the mashed potatoes and ran back out. Grabbing globs of brown gooey liquid with his one hand and chunks of potato with the other, Dad whipped gravy and starch at the fence until, eventually, the flames were smothered under delicious sauces and side dishes. Mom came out to the yard, having scraped away enough of the pie so she could see where she was going. She saw the exploded deep fryer and the charred, still smoking fence covered in our dinner, and she did something completely unexpected. She laughed. Then Dad started laughing too. They couldn't breathe. They were laughing so hard, and they both had to take a seat on the ground to keep from falling over. I didn't understand how this was funny. Thanksgiving was ruined. Why are you laughing? I said, almost in tears. My dad looked up at me, hugged me with gravy and potatoes still all over his hands, and said, Well, honey, at this point we could either laugh or we could cry. But the turkey is still going to be exploded either way, so your mom and I would rather laugh." Then Mom wiped some pie from her hair and smushed it all over my face, too. And then they started laughing again, and I laughed too, and it was good pie. A little later on, we got some Chinese takeout, and we laughed a lot more. We were thankful the house didn't burn down. We were thankful no one was hurt. And more than anything else, we were thankful to be together. That's all you're really supposed to do on Thanksgiving. Have fun with your family and be grateful for all the wonderful things in your life. The day wasn't ruined. It was actually the best Thanksgiving ever. One big happy family. I didn't want to go. I'm only 9, but even I know that on Thanksgiving you're supposed to eat turkey and yams and pie until all you can do is nap. You're supposed to watch football, even though you don't really understand what's happening or why giant men just keep running into each other as hard as they can. You're supposed to sit at one table with your cousins that you don't really know while the grown-ups sit at another table, and try not to discuss politics or money or that weird-smelling guy my sister brings home from college. Whatever you do, you're not supposed to wake up early and do work. That, as I tried to explain to my parents, is crazy talk. But this year, my mom and dad said I had it all wrong. That food and football and arguing are not what Thanksgiving is all about at all. They said it's a day, the one day out of the year when you stop thinking about what you want or what you don't have. It's the day when you focus on all that you do have. It's the day you realize how lucky you are just to be you, just to be alive and healthy and happy all at the same time. It is the day you are grateful. The day you give thanks for all of the other days in the year, for food and a home and your family. And part of that gratitude is sharing with people who have none of those things. Because some people don't have homes. They don't have people who love them and feed them and tuck them in at night. And those people, well, they deserve to be happy just as much as we do. So I didn't want to go. But at 10 a.m. on Thanksgiving Day, my mom, my dad, my sister, and me, we all loaded up in the car and drove into the city. We went further downtown than I had ever been, where the buildings were much older and less shiny than the ones where my dad works. When we got to the place where we would be spending the day, there were already dozens of people standing outside, waiting to get in. They didn't look like my mom and dad and uncles and aunts. Most of the men didn't shave, and the women didn't wear high heels or makeup. I don't know why, but they scared me. I think maybe they scared me because they looked so sad. But then we got to work. My dad joined a lot of other dads carving turkey because dads really like to carve turkey. My mom joined lots of other moms baking pies and doing all the important cooking things. And I joined lots of other kids serving the food our moms and dads made to the people who were waiting. I got put on mashed potato duty. They gave me an ice cream scoop for the potatoes, which seemed weird at first but worked really well. All of the men and women that scared me, they all said please and thank you like my mom taught me to do. They smiled, and they weren't as sad as before. They weren't scary anymore. And when we had served all of them, me and my mom and dad, we sat with them at tables and we ate with them as they told stories and jokes. We ate and we laughed like we were all long-lost relatives. I asked my dad, "Are these people all in the same family?" And he said, "Well, in a way, we are all family. Everyone on the whole planet is one big family. In a way, we are all brothers and sisters." And even though I'm only 9 years old, and even though I don't really understand football, I understood what he meant. And I understood why it was important to be thankful for at least one day a year. I am very grateful to have a mom and dad who love me. and I am very grateful to have billions of brothers and sisters throughout the world, and grateful that I can share what I have with them. Uncle Dave is a weirdo. My dad says everyone has a weird uncle, and sometimes they come over for Thanksgiving dinner. And you may not like him, he said, but you have to love him anyway because he's family. Dad says that's just part of life, like going to school and wearing shoes. My weird uncle is named Dave. It's not a very weird name, but that's just about the only normal thing about him. He doesn't have a wife or kids. He doesn't have a job, really. He just does whatever comes along. Most recently, he was fishing for crabs on a boat in Alaska and digging wells in Africa. He doesn't really have a home, either. He works in exchange for food and a room sometimes. Sometimes he crashes on friends' couches while he fixes their roof or something. Sometimes he just walks into the woods and goes camping for months at a time. I like camping, but usually just for the weekend or so. My mom calls Uncle Dave a hobo. Sometimes she also calls him a vagabond. I looked that word up in the dictionary, and it turns out that's basically just a fancy way of saying hobo. I don't see Uncle Dave much, but he writes me letters. Not on the computer. He writes actual letters on actual paper sent in envelopes. It's the only mail I've ever gotten, other than birthday cards. He sends me gifts sometimes, too. Not toys or games like my parents give me. He sends me what he calls pieces of his walk. He sent me a rock made of lava once, along with a picture of him surfing down the side of the volcano. I didn't even know you could do that. He sent me hair from a yak that pulled him up a mountain in India. He sent me a tooth from a shark that tried to eat his kayak. He said the shark was fine and that they lose teeth all the time, just like I used to do with my baby teeth. I don't just love Uncle Dave because he's family, though. He's funny, and he has great stories, and he loves me. He told us he'd bring the Thanksgiving turkey when he came over this year. My mom bought a backup turkey just in case. She said she's known Uncle Dave his whole life, and he's very sweet, but cannot be trusted. When he showed up on Thanksgiving, though, he did not have a turkey big enough for us to all eat, or a turkey at all, for that matter. He had 12 very tiny birds called pheasants. He cooked them with herbs and spices that he picked himself all over the world. And I think it was the best-tasting Thanksgiving we ever had. He told us he's been living in a 700-year-old tree for most of the year to make sure no one cut it down. He made us all laugh the whole meal by telling us about the woodland creatures he had befriended. When we all went around the table saying what we were thankful for, I said I was thankful that Uncle Dave was weird. I would hate it if everybody were all the same. That would be super boring. And I'd never know you can surf down the side of a volcano. The wishbone. Thanksgiving happens in periods, like a football game. The first period is my mom and dad taking the turkey out of the deep freeze in the garage and arguing playfully about who has to stick his or her hand inside the bird and pull out all the gross stuff that they really shouldn't leave inside your food in the first place. Dad usually loses, but does such a terrible job of it that my mom has to take over at some point. This year, Dad put on the biggest, thickest pair of rubber gloves he could find, took the turkey out to the back, and started jumping up and down in the yard, hoping the gross stuff would just fall out and the dog would eat it. It did not work. My mom just smiled and shook her head and said, "Rachel, I love your father dearly, but I'm pretty sure I married an idiot." Mom took over digging out the gross stuff, and I said to my dad, "I don't think that was a very good plan." He said, "The idea was not to get the stuff out. It was to get your mother to do it for me. So I think it was a very good plan." The second period of Thanksgiving is where Mom and Dad wake up at 4 in the morning to put the turkey on to bake. It takes so long to cook that it wouldn't be ready in time if they put it on when they usually get up. When they do this, they are very sleepy. And once, Dad accidentally baked the oven mitts instead of the bird. Period 3 is where Mom's brothers and sisters come over and they help Mom make all the other food while Dad watches football and is disappointed in pretty much all of the referees. He tries to help with dinner, but always messes something up and gets kicked out of the kitchen. I'm starting to think he does all this on purpose. Period 4 is where my grandmother comes over and tells Mom she's doing everything wrong. Mom just hugs her and says, "It's good to see you." Period 5 is where all my other relatives show up, and we eat like pigs. We eat dozens of different foods that we don't normally have, like stuffing and yams with marshmallows on top, and at least 4 different kinds of pie. My Uncle Charlie says that you've not had enough Thanksgiving dinner if you don't regret what you've done later. While we eat, we tell jokes and catch up with family members we never get to see. We laugh, and I sneak table scraps to our pets. The last period is my favorite. It's where the oldest person and the youngest person at the dinner pull on the turkey's wishbone and make a wish. That's always me and my granddad. I spend all day thinking of what I'll wish for. Maybe a car, even though I'm only 9 and can't drive, or a helicopter, or superpowers. This year, though, when dinner was done and Grandpa and I pulled the wishbone apart, I went blank. Everyone kept asking what I had wished for, but I was looking around at all of my family and all of the food and our dog Crackers and our cat Daisy, and I had no idea what to wish for at all. I had no idea what to wish for because I couldn't think of anything that could be better than this. Turkey Day. My dad grew up on a small farm. He milked cows, he collected eggs from the hens, and when he was my age, he started getting the Thanksgiving turkey for the family. Even though he wears a suit to work every day now, he still kind of thinks like a farmer. This year, he sat me down and said, "Son, you're 12 now. You are almost a man. It's time you understood your place in the food chain. It's time you understand where the food we eat comes from. You can't be truly thankful for our meals until you understand the real price of them, until you understand the sacrifice." So, in April, he bought me a turkey. Not a turkey like you buy at the store, a turkey that was still a bird. It still had feathers and feet, and it walked and it gobbled. It had eyes that seemed almost kind and definitely confused. It was not a bird weighed down by genius by any means. Sometimes he would just walk into walls and squawk, like the wall just appeared out of nowhere to slam into him. But he was still very nice and kind of pretty in a brown sort of way, especially the white tips on his feathers. My dad told me to name him, so I called him Wendell. He told me it was my responsibility to feed him and look after him, and so I did. He bought seeds and grains for me to feed Wendell, but it turns out turkeys will eat just about anything: berries, Honey Nut Cheerios, flowers, etc. He ate a little frog once, which I didn't much like because frogs are nice too. I cared for Wendell for months and months, and even though he didn't really play with me like our dog Scotty, and even though he wasn't as cuddly as our cat Sam, we became friends. Then my dad did the strangest thing he's ever done. The day before Thanksgiving, he came into my room holding an axe. It was sharp, red, and heavy. He said, "Son, what do we always eat on Thanksgiving?" And I did not like where this was going. "Yams," I said, knowing that wasn't the answer he was looking for. "What else?" he asked. "Mashed potatoes." "What else?" "Cranberry sauce." I figured I could answer that answer another 8 or 10 times before I ran out of things we eat on Thanksgiving. "Okay," he said. He was getting frustrated. "What is our main course?" I thought about that for a long time. I knew the answer, of course, but I couldn't say it. So I said, "I've always felt family time was our real main course." "We eat turkey," he said sternly. "You know that we always eat turkey. And what is Wendell?" "My friend?" I said, hoping that would somehow confuse my father who argues for a living. "He's a turkey, son. Wendell is a turkey. You've always said you love Thanksgiving turkey the most." "Have I, though?" I asked, still trying to bewilder him. My dad handed me the axe and said, "I have not, and I will not, buy a frozen turkey this year. If you would like to have Thanksgiving turkey, it will have to be Wendell." I gulped. I'm 12. I'm old enough to know that our meats were once animals, but I don't think I ever really understood it until that moment. Our food has eyes and runs around and gobbles "hello" at you when you get off the school bus in the afternoon. But my family was counting on me. I couldn't let them down. And I am 12, almost a man. I took the axe in hand and went outside to Wendell's little yellow doghouse, which I had converted into a turkey house. He saw me coming and ran up to me. His eyes are permanently mystified, but always kind. And the axe was so heavy. The next day, our whole family gathered for Thanksgiving dinner. Everything was delicious. Near the end of the meal, I stood up and I told everyone how truly thankful I was for this food and this family. And how thankful I am that if you season it just right, tofu almost tastes like real turkey. I gave all the leftover stuffing to Wendell, and I don't think he's ever been happier. Thanksgiving jokes. What is a turkey's favorite dessert? Peach gobbler. How come the big man didn't get a second helping of pecan pie? Because he ate it all the first time. What was the Pilgrim's favorite dance? The Plymouth Rock. Can you spell Indian house with only 2 letters? TP. Who is never hungry on Thanksgiving? A turkey, because it is always stuffed. Why did the turkey cross the road? Because he wanted to prove that he wasn't chicken. Why did the Pilgrim's pants keep falling down? Because they wore belt buckles on their hat. What do vampires put on their mashed potatoes? Gravy. What do you get when you cross a turkey and an octopus? Enough drumsticks to feed the entire family. Which country never celebrates Thanksgiving? Turkey. What smells so good at Thanksgiving? Your nose. Why did the turkey hunter shoot the turkey? He was in a foul mood. What did the turkey say to the turkey hunter? Quack, quack. Why did the monster get a ticket on Thanksgiving? Because he exceeded the feed limit. Why did the Pilgrims want to come to America during the spring? Because April showers bring May flowers. Where did the Pilgrims land when they came to America? They landed on their feet. What did the snowman eat for Thanksgiving? An iceberger. An iceberger. How do you stuff a turkey? Buy him 2 large pizzas and some cheeseburgers. For more fun books for kids, please visit www.arnielightning.com. This has been Thanksgiving Stories, fun Thanksgiving stories for kids. Written by Arnie Lightning. Narrated by Toby Sheets. Copyright 2014 by Arnie Lightning. Production copyright 2018 by Arnie Lightning.
Audible hopes you have enjoyed this program.